Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're doing the first update for spring today. Can you believe the spring of 2016? It's only a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, at the start of the month, and I was doing the winter forecast. And now the storyline is moving on. As always, with Gaz Weather and with the weather, we have to look at the next season ahead. When we get to one season, we start thinking about the next one. So we're thinking about spring today. We haven't got all the long range season models for this first preliminary update. We're going to be short of the JMA, we're going to be short of APEC, we're going to be short of a Russian model. The reason being that these models don't quite reach the required time frame. We are using a Brazilian, but that doesn't really reach the threshold either, not the full spring threshold anyway. These other models will start to come on stream from next month, but we've got 7 or 8 models to be going on with, so there's plenty to look at. So I'll get on that in a second, but before we get on with that on this Christmas Sunday, I just want to say that there's video ads on all the pages. They open up the content, we can watch them, they'll close back up again, and thanks so much for doing that. There's also links to articles, so you have a browse widgets and click through the links. You'll be able to go off and read the article if you're interested in it, and you'll be helping to pay for the website by doing that. So thanks so much for getting involved, and thanks for doing that. I hope you're enjoying your Christmas Sunday. Thanks so much for tuning in to Gaz Weathers on this day, the 27th of December. I know there's lots of other things still going on at your house, so thanks so much for tuning in on this Christmas Sunday. Just say that all of the models, or most of them anyway, you can find the links to them on the links page, so if you want to see any of these charts for yourself, you just have to go to the links page and do that. And just really say enjoy the video. I hope you find it enjoyable and informative. Right, let's get on with the first spring update. I'm going to start off with the Brazilian model first of all. So these are the 500 millibar heights for February, March and April. So we don't cover the full spring period with this one. This is always a bit different, as I have to explain. Because yellow, orange and red is extrapolating to low pressure, whereas blue and purple is extrapolating to high pressure. It's normally the other way round on a typical height anomaly chart. So what the model is showing is that for February to April, anyway, we've got an anomalous trough here in the central part of the Atlantic, and it looks as though we've got quite a bit of ridging to the north. So around Greenland, it looks like we've got above average heights there, possibly around Iceland and Scandinavia as well. Now you would look at that and think that's quite a cold chart, because you would think the jet stream is on a southerly track here, and we're probably pulling in fairly cold air from the east and the northeast. So have a look at the temperature anomaly. Actually, it's nothing particularly special. The temperature anomaly is coming out significantly milder than average. I can't really explain that based on the height anomaly. I would think that would be significantly cold. You notice most of the world actually is looking very warm through February to April, probably as a result of El Nino spiking with temperature. But most of North America is warm, most of Eurasia is warm, most of North Africa is warm. You get the idea that it really had gone to town with the warm. But based on that 500 millibar height anomaly, remind you of it again, I would expect this to be significantly colder for that 3-monthly period than this is suggesting. Also coming out wetter than average for February to April as well. So yeah, we've got a pretty wet period coming up, particularly to the south of us through France. So game is probably implies some sort of southerly tracking jet stream, with the jet going rather like that. We've got hints of ridging through the northern Atlantic as well. I really can't see why the winds won't be in from the east or the northeast there and be delivering us some quite cold conditions. It's possible, of course, these are a 3-monthly anomaly, so it's possible what's going on here is that there's an exceptionally mild month in there. Let's say February is exceptionally mild, and then March and April goes much colder, maybe particularly April, but because of that very warm month that we've had in February, for example, and I only use this as an example, I'm not saying this is definitely how things are playing out, but if you've got one month that is exceptionally warm, such as this December just gone really, then the next two won't offset it. So 1 month is enough actually to cause a 3-monthly anomaly to go warmer than average, even if the other 2 months are significantly colder. And as I say, this December is indicative of that. We've got having an anomaly particularly for England and Wales this December, of over 5 degrees above average. So even if we get January and February coming out a degree or so colder than average, it would still be, for the 3 monthly period, December to February, it would still be a milder than average or a warmer than average 3 monthly period, despite 2 out of 3 months being colder than average. So you always have to be very, very careful with these 3 monthly anomaly maps. That's the Brazilian model. Anyway, the next models we look at are going to cover the full spring period, starting off with CFS V2. This is the 700 millibar height anomaly for March, April and May. What we see is that there's a trough of low pressure to the north of Scotland. I'll have to change the colour. Quite a lot of ridging through the northern Atlantic and extending down in towards Spain and North Africa. The jet stream is probably on a northwest-southeast trajectory here. So I think the CFS V2, of course, it's been going for this exceptionally mild pattern through the through the whole the past few months for this winter. I think as we get towards spring, the CFS V2 is indicating a cooler pattern, probably not a particularly cold pattern, but a cooler pattern with instead of things going from southwest to northeast and pulling the air up from the tropics, the air probably coming from the northern Atlantic and around Greenland. So fairly coolish spring could be possible based on that. These are the temperature anomalies. Most of Europe still coming out warmer than average, but the UK and Ireland actually comes out around normal. So again, that's probably indicative of the jet stream going a bit like that, and it just aligns things a little bit cooler compared to the winter. So these exceptional warm temperatures, put your teeth in, Gav, these exceptional warm temperatures that we've had or we're having through this winter, forecast to start to drain away as we go through into the spring. The rainfall anomaly for spring is coming out wetter than average as well. So 2 models going for a wetter than average spring, with the CFSC near normal temperatures, while the Brazilian model goes for warmer than average temperature anomalies. Most of Europe looking pretty wet as well, especially in the north. The experimental model from NASA next, this is very similar actually to CFS V2. So we've got this ridging here in the northern part of the Atlantic extending down towards Iberia. It doesn't really show, but I think there's probably a trough here. This is a 500 millibar height anomaly, so in a slight different area in the atmosphere to the CFS thing. There's probably a trough there within the 500 millibar flow, and again I think we're probably aligning the jet stream northwest to southeast as opposed to southwest to northeast. Having a look at the temperature anomaly for the spring, it's coming out warmer than average, so a milder than average spring being seen there by the experimental NASA model. Rainfall near normal to a bit above average, especially in the north. Probably can't make it out all that well, but the north comes out with a slightly wetter than average spring. So all 3 models so far seeing an Atlantic-driven pattern for this spring. Hugo van der Doel next, our good friend Hugo, and what Hugo is doing is analog-based forecasts. So these aren't particularly based on a generic computer model doing thousands of calculations a second and throwing out output. What this is based on is Hugo himself looking at sea surface temperature anomalies in any given month, and this was generated in November actually. So he's looked at the sea surface temperature anomalies across the world in November, compared those anomalies back to past years with similar sea surface temperature anomalies, and then created an analog based weather forecast going forward. So starting off with the 500 millibar height anomaly, Hugo is seeing a ridge actually above average height there across the UK and extending into Scandinavia as well. So this one's a bit different compared to the other models. It's not as Atlantic driven, it is more high pressure dominated. Still coming out with a milder than average spring though, warmer than average temperature anomalies there in most salmon pink colours. And in terms of rainfall, that is coming out near normal to a little bit drier than average. So this is the first one that isn't seeing a particularly wet spring coming up. So Hugo a bit different, more anticyclonic cyclonic, milder than average, a bit drier than average, a very pleasant spring actually, if that came off. The Canadian model next. These are monthly anomalies, so we can't see sort of a 3-month anomaly. So we're going to look at the mean sea level pressures first of all for March, April, May, and then we'll have a look at corresponding temperature and precipitation. So in terms of the sea level pressure anomaly, seeing quite a bit of ridging through the northern Atlantic, hints of a bit of a trough underneath it, so that could be quite unsettled. Jet stream probably going a bit like that, so it may be a little bit on the cooler side actually, that one. If we have a look at the anomaly for April, now this really does intensify that ridging up to the north, so there's high pressure up here around Iceland, low pressure tracking to the south. I think this could be quite a cool month, cool wet April, the jet stream really on a southerly track there and opening the door to northeasterly winds. We will have a look at temperature precipitation in a moment. That was a pretty nasty month actually in April, not at all what you want really as you're going into the spring. Then in terms of the anomaly for May, it all goes a little bit flabby as you tend to get in May, but overall I think still unsettled, below average pressure there around the UK and extending into much of Central Europe over here as well. So I think it could be quite an unsettled, coolish May on that one. Let's have a look at the temperatures, and for March the temperature anomaly is coming out about average, so that's cooler compared to the winter months, which are at the moment anyway in December exceptionally mild, round average in March. Now April is the one that I thought could be colder, and indeed it does show temperature anomalies average to colder than average there in April. Notice Iceland also getting a very cold month in April, quite interestingly. And then in May we find the anomaly going a bit warmer than average, so the temperatures do stage a recovery in May. That's quite an interesting spring, all 3 months looking a bit different. March about average, April colder than average, May warmer than average, so that would keep us on our toes. Wouldn't be a boring spring with that one. In terms of the rainfall for March, that's coming out about average to a little bit wetter than average, especially down in the south. April excuse me, comes out drier than average in the north and wetter than average in the south. So remember what's going on in April is that I've got ridging up here somewhere around Iceland to the north of Scotland, a trough of low pressure underneath it, opening the door to this chilly east, northeast or northerly flow. So April could be a nasty month based on this. You would probably expect a fair number of late season frost. After a mild winter, chances are we're bringing out a lot of fruit blossom and spring flowers early, so quite a bit of frost, and snow isn't out of the question in April either. So that could be a pretty nasty month, to be honest. And then we go through into May, and it all looks a bit strange in May. The precipitation on is about average. I'm not sure it's got a tremendously strong signal there in May, but the temperatures were a little bit above average. This is the website tropicaltidbits.com, by the way. You find the link to Tropical Tidbits on the links page. UK Met next. Let's see what the mean sea level pressure anomalies are looking like for the spring. So it's going for quite a bit of ridging around Greenland and a trough of low pressure underneath it. So again, this is similar to the CanSITS model, actually, the Canadian model. There's quite a bit of blocking up to the northwest, trough of low pressure over to the east of the country. You again expect the winds probably to be coming from a northeasterly, maybe even northerly direction. So a cooler and unsettled spring would be anticipated. That's in line with what the Canadian model is showing for April. The Canadian model doesn't show this for the whole of the spring, but for April, the anomalies there are very similar. You have a look at the rainfall, see how the temperature, see how that's stacking up, and it's coming out near normal to cooler or colder than average in the north and the west. In terms of, I've just got rid of the page there. So let's do it this way. In terms of the precipitation for the spring, It's been a very, very long few weeks, I have to say. So in terms of precipitation, it's coming out wetter than average. And you would expect, of course, there's an anomalous trough over and to the east of the country. So a pretty cool wet spring there on the UK Met GLOW-C 5 model. The Jamstec IOD next game, this is covering the full spring period, coming out a little bit cooler than average in the north, a bit warmer than average in the south. So overall, probably near normal temperatures, you would have to say, for this spring. In terms of precipitation, hinting at being a bit drier than average, but it isn't a particularly strong signal. And then finally, the Asian Climate Centre is looking like this. Excuse me, again, this is the 500 millibar height anomaly for the spring. We've got this ridge again to the north west of the country in the northern Atlantic, so that's a bit of a trend on several of these models, all looking a bit similar in terms of where the ridge and the troughs are being placed. Trough of low pressure over Scandinavia, jet stream probably doing something a bit like that. So it's a little bit in between that. Is it settled? Is it unsettled? I would err on this side of probably being fairly settled, really, with the Atlantic a little bit blocked off. The temperature anomaly is coming out ever so slightly milder than average, so that looks quite nice for the spring. And the rainfall anomaly is actually coming out a little bit wetter than average as well. So it's a bit of a mixed bag from all of these models. I think overall it's probably a trend for a fairly unsettled spring. No real signal here for a particularly cold spring. Some of them look quite cold, particularly Canon 6 in April, and then maybe the UK Met, the pattern it's going anyway, extended over the spring, probably hints at quite a cool or even maybe at times cold spring. Overall, nothing definitive though, and it's early days on this, so I'll have more models to look at next month. I would expect the picture to firm up a bit as we get through to next month with many of these models, which they do look, particularly the Asian Climate Centre, maybe Jamstec as well, looks a little bit unsure, not really going for anything with a particular conviction. So overall, I think we're probably saying for this first update, not a strong signal for temperatures, but nothing desperately cold really being shown up. On the other hand, probably not as warm in terms of the anomaly anyway, as we've had it so far through this winter. In terms of rainfall, maybe a stronger signal actually for a more unsettled spring with above average rainfall. So that's how the first spring update is looking. We'll do it all again next month, and as I say, we'll have more models to come at next month. That'll be on the last Sunday of January. I haven't had a look at the calendar to see what date that is, but it will be on the last Sunday of the month in January. Alright, that's it for now, and thanks very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Christmas Sunday.